Om Namo Brahmadibhyo Brahma Vidya Sampradayakatibhyo Vanshashibhyo Mahabhyo Namo Gurubhyah Sarvo Bhaklavarahita Prajnanagana Pratyagardho Brahmaivahamasmi Om Shanti 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 Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavadvyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshuranmilithayena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Blessed Srila Khaji and panelists, distinguished and learned Hindu brothers and sisters. She rightly said this, my topic is not relevant to United States of America, but it's relevant to Hindus of United States of America. So, just to brief you about the organization that I represent. I represent as a convener as well as Secretary General of Hindu Dharma Acharya Sabha. It's a federation of various sampradayas and mathas which are minimum 200 years old. 200 years is the cut-off line. And the constitution is only the head of the sampradaya becomes members. So all Shankaracharyas, Ramanujas, Vallabhas, Nimbarakas, Swaminarayan and Akhada, Acharya Mahamandaleshwaras, about 147 heads we have the members. It's a strategic body, not an activist organization. We started with saving Ram Setu and now we are doing some policy advisory work with the government. There is one problem which I think we Hindus are blissfully ignorant about. When the country was ruled for millennia by Vidharmis, they tried to destroy our culture, they tried to plunder our wealth. And Somnath was a classic case which was plundered. In last 2 centuries when the British came, there was a very systematic and sophisticated methods employed to destroy the culture. Hindu, if you ask me what is Hindu Dharma, I have only one sentence to say. What is Hindu Dharma? It is not a faith. Hindu Dharma is vision. What is a vision? Whatever is non-separate from Ishvara. Isha Vasyam Idam Sat. Siya Rama Jagadrani, etc. And the whole culture, though this is not a platform and the time is not there, whole culture is a religious culture. It's a spiritual culture. All our forms, arts, music, methods of praying, even the society or the marriage, everything is religious. Birth of a child is also religious and death is also religious. And this religious culture reverberated or centered on temple. Then we are a teaching tradition. They are the faith-based tradition. Temples were the center of learning. Temples were the center of preservation of art. And what just she mentioned about counseling, Hindu marriages, etc., temples were the center to settle the village feuds. Temples were feeding the society openly free of charge. Temples provided accommodation for yatriks, etc. If you see the different projects of Tirupati Devasthanam, temple is doing what they were doing. So they targeted temples. And as it also happened, couple of temple administrative acharyas had some feud and they went to government. It started in 18th century government, then the British government took over Hindu temples. And by the time we got independence, they had so many temples that were controlled, administered by the British. But there were only those who went to government to settle the case in terms of feud between the trustees or the priest or some acharyas, whatever. But unfortunately, after independence, the governments of the independent India, though in whatever limited way, tried to protect the geographical boundaries of the country, they never paid any attention to protect the cultural boundaries. They never paid any attention to protect religious boundaries. On the contrary, the policies were such that they were harmful, not only harmful but destructive to culture and religion. And one of them was taking over of the temples. After independence, every state government formed various laws. There was one general law and a specific law for a specific temple, where government took over the administration of the given temple under the pretext that it is mismanaged, or under the pretext that there is a mismanagement of the funds, or just because of a complaint of one ambitious trustee of the temple or one priest over there. Thousands and thousands of temples are controlled by various state governments. And crores of rupees that the Hindu gives to the temple unfortunately goes to exchequer of the then state government. And the end use of those money, God only knows. In fact, he may also not know, they are very smart. He also must be baffling how it happened, these entries. And another cultural form, but this vision to own up that everything is Ishvara, and to gain the vision, the path or the means is Tyaga. And therefore culture teaches us to be a contributor rather than a consumer. So there is a value that whatever I have to contribute to the society. And temple was a center to give the contribution and thereby distribute to society. And of course, the statement very famous, Narikta Pani Rabivade Deva Dvija Guru Prajnam Rajanam Ityar. Even now when you go to the president and prime ministers, wherever I go, we have to carry some gift for them. So that value, we never go empty-handed to temples. So through ages, which are some of the temples are more than millennia old, they have acquired lots of wealth in terms of gold, etc. Kings also had those values that they donated from the king's coffer, and temples had thousands of acres of land. They wanted the temple to be independent economically. They wanted to support the Pujari Ganas, the families who are doing these worships and pujas, and therefore they donated the land. And this being a case, it became a soft target. I don't know how they formed this constitution, and so far nobody looked into it. You will be shocked to know. I have no expression, I am so numb by this word. As per the Indian constitution, what Shivaji said very rightly, don't say the idol, it is Lord himself. The Vigraha, the temple Lord, as per Indian constitution, is minor. And we are major. And they took over the temples, one by one. And the wealth is a soft target. The Tirupati Devasthanam was taken over by a special law passed in the Vidhan Sabha. Recently Shirdi Sai Baba temple, they took over. This Tirupati, I am sorry to use this word, Hindu devotees. Why I say Americans? Because you NRIs come there for religious pilgrimage. And you go to temple and donate in terms of dollars, but you should know this. The money that goes to temple, Tirupati alone gets through hundi, etc., more than 3,200 crores of rupees. And all those goes to Andhra Pradesh government coffers. And when they found Shirdi Sai Baba is earning more, they took over this thing. So it is a soft target for earning money for the state. And the trick is, the money goes to treasury, where all kinds of government taxes also are collected. So you cannot segregate which is temple money and which is GST money and which is other money. But if you compare the spendings of those money, 10 years, 12 years ago, the Karnataka temple government collected money because other religions, secular state, other religions don't have this system of hundi. Only Hindus temple give to the temple endowment board. The money collected was some amount and the government spent 40% of that money for Hajj subsidy. And 30 to 40% was spent in managing the administrative staff. So nothing is left for Hindus. So like that, as per our estimate, about 1,50,000 crores of Hindu money goes to different state governments. All our major Tirthasthana temples are taken over by them. Right from Vaishno Devi to up to Rameshwaram, Dwarika onwards to Jagannath Puri. Jagannath Puri has recently new problem. Anyway, I will not talk about just quite days ago, new judgment has come. The state government politicians use the temple to accommodate the political leaders who could not be accommodated in the ministry or various boards. They are made the board member of the temple. And they misuse the temples. We have documentation, some 60,000 acres of the temple land has been misappropriated only and only in Tamil Nadu. Those lands, they advertise government officials to be given away. Recently, 4 years ago, we stalled one advertisement. They wanted to use this land for seva, and that was to be given to the Christian organization at token rent of 1 rupee, whereas the land would have fetched monthly rent of 80 lakhs of rupees. Like that, the money, the land, as well as the resources. The district collector becomes the chairman, he can be a Muslim, and another problem with Hindus is if he is a Vaishnava, he will not attend the Shiva temple. And if it is a the Shiva follower, he will not bother for Krishna temple. Like that, there is a mismanagement. So, Acharya Sabha, I have left only 3 minutes, says file a case in the Supreme Court. We did a labor for 5 years, collected the data through various PILs, UNESCO report is there. And this government archaeological officers, in the name of renovation of temple, they are destroying the temples. Our art, the cultural pillars are broken and sold, and modern tiles are fixed with the temple. And UNESCO has made a report and submitted to the government that this is a mismanagement of the temple. Officers are also looting the temples. We have filed a case in the Supreme Court about 8-9 years ago, took the data and PIL, and we went straight to the Supreme Court. Because if we go to High Court and then again you have to go to Supreme Court. So we covered 3 states, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, as well as Puducherry. Some of the temples have lots of resources, where there are some temples where there is no Divabhakti also being performed. The then Andhra Pradesh previous government offered 20,000 temples to NGOs, take away these, where the income was 0. Had they offered me Tirupati, I would have taken it. So we have, the good news is that Chidambaram also was taken away, and then atheist government, communist government of Kerala is the communist cadre guys are in the board of this Guru Ayurveda. Some of the judgments, very weak plea and very weak lawyers, and some of the constitution interpretations, and some of the trustees, there are hundreds and hundreds of odds against us. But still we are fighting. Subramaniam Swami happens to be my legal cell convener, and Puja Swamiji himself asked him to get into this case, and of course Pujari Ganas and all that. So we won the Chidambaram case. Subramaniam Swami got us back. They meddled not only in administration, they meddled in the religious vidhi laws. You did not offer this much, you did not do this much, etc., etc. And therefore, the judgment is in our favor in a sense. There is a clause, Supreme Court has clearly ruled. The judgment was given by then the Supreme Court Judge Justice Chauhan, who happens to be our Law Commission Chairman, and he is a legal Google. I have met him a few times. And some Divya Shakti prompted him to write that. If you should hear him, what made him to write like this? And he said government has no right to take over the religious institutions. And if at all they take up, because of the mismanagement in the institution, they should keep it for a reasonable time and return back to the religious groups. And there is a constitutional article 14th and 12th, which clearly the case was in the Shirur Math Karnataka case, where the 7-bench constitutional bench of the Supreme Court said a law which takes away the rights of the administration from the hands of the religious denominations altogether and vests it in any other authority would amount to violation of the rights that guaranteed under the clause D of the Article 26. So we are using this and the judgment of Chidambaram, we are fighting the case. Our bottom line, take home is to the Supreme Court, we say clearly, Hindu money for Hindu cause. That's what we want. And they have, because I know we are going to win hands down. They are prolonging because they know they are going to lose. Every government is asking for date after date, and at least after some times, before I go, I think I'll get the temples back. And we have a scheme how to, but in one word that I say, let's have a separate accounting of temple money. And you may either sound overconfident, but if we get those money, I tell you, we'll put the Christians on run. We will proselytize them with our money. So much of money is involved. We can protect our Vedas, we can protect our cultural forms, we can protect our ancient Vidyas, Jyotisha, this Vastu, etc. So much thing can be done. And Seva works. Just think of it. Every year, 1 crore and 150 lakh crores of rupees. What an amount. We can have Adivasis, etc. We can save the people. And another argument we have given in the Supreme Court, and which really put the question on the government and the state government. Since it's a state subject, Narendra Modi is not able to help us anything. It's a state subject. So we say let the government manage the temples. We don't want. We want to give away. But declare the state as a Hindu state. If it's a secular state, you cannot manage the places of worship. You cannot manage the places of religion. And our money goes in renovation of churches. Our money goes in renovation of mosques. Just last painful thing. This Bombay Siddhivinayak was once upon a time, this Antule, then the CM, was a chairman of that board. And I have those official documents. He donated then, 20 years ago, 5 lakhs of rupees from Siddhivinayak Trust to missionary school. Politicians get into temple in the name of Seva. They spend temple money for Seva project, but where? In their constituency. Even Mayavati has spent crores of rupees to feed poor, but all the poor are fed in Buddhist temple. The government money is used for conversion, and so we are working on it. And why I say the Americans need to know, before you donate money to temple, I would say donate to Acharya Sabha. That's better proposition. We need to fight this case and get our money back. Crores of rupees goes to them. And I'm thankful to Hota as well as the chair for giving me the time. And I would like to introduce our senior board members. Swami Krishna Maniji is here. He heads the Krishna Pranami Sampradaya. There are 800 branches and it's a 700 years old Sampradaya here. And we have another senior Swami, Madhav Priyadas Shastri, Swaminarayan Sampradaya. And he lives that matter. And few of Acharyas are traveling here. And on my request, they are quite busy people. But on my request, they spent the time and graced here. I thank you, Swamijis, both. And thank Kotha and thank World Congress. Namaste.
Swamiji, that was quite enlightening to hear that, and it was actually quite humorous too. It's a great entertainment topic and a very serious topic, but you did a wonderful job summarizing all the resolutions that you've been putting through. And also in South India we have what is called as Nilugudopadi in Tirupati. I've done that a couple of times, and I promise I'll stop. And I know my mom has done that before, which means that it's a practice where you take away all the jewelry on the spot and put it in the hundi. So now I know where all the jewelry has gone, right? It's probably CM Chandrababu Naidu's home. So that being said, I'm going to invite another eminent guest, Sri Joseph Emmett. Mr. Emmett is from Vedanta Institute, Houston, USA. He's going to be talking about spiritual but not religious. I think I have more questions about this topic than any other topic that's well presented. I'm sure, like audience, I'm just very curious to know how can we teach our children spirituality, religiousness, ethics, and humanity. Or are we parents able to do it all? I mean, it's very fashionable among even my own generation to say, oh, I'm not very religious, I'm very spiritual. So this is a topic that personally interests me. So just to talk a little bit about Mr. Emmett, he's the director of Vedanta Institute, Houston, USA, as I said. Since 1996, he has been a student of Swami Parthasarathy and graduated after a full-time 3-year residential course at Vedanta Academy. He has spent over a decade in Bharat at the ashram deepening his knowledge. He offers beyond business seminars for management teams and leadership groups such as Young Presidents Organization. He also speaks at universities, schools, and cultural organizations. He taught for a semester at Pomona College near Los Angeles. He has been the Vedanta faculty in residence at Ananda in the Himalayas and the Calamigos guest ranch in Malibu. With due respect, I invite Mr. Emmett onto the stage. Thank you for being here.
Our original nature is infinite. None of us will rest content until we reach our original nature. So, because we are ignorant of our original nature, we are extroverted in our minds, trying to collect infinity externally, which will never work. So we end up pressurized for pleasure. My guru, Swami Parthasarathy, has an example he uses a lot, where he says we're like a coil spring. So if you imagine a coil spring and you press down on the coil spring, there's a pressure on the hand. You release the coil spring a little bit, there's less pressure. Release it still more, less pressure. Release it all the way, there's no pressure. Because the coil spring has reached its original nature. We are all pressurized until we return to our infinite state. One of many words to describe that pressure is mumukshatva. Mumukshatva is an essential quality of a seeker. The path that we call religion is supposed to be a way to service that mumukshatva. It is supposed to be a way to liberate us from that pressure. To reconnect us with our original nature. So, in the Hindu Dharma we call it yoga, which is taken from the Sanskrit root yuj, which means to bind or to yoke, or to connect, which implies a separation. In English, the word religion is made of two words, re-ligare, which means to again connect, again bind. Religion is yoga, yoga is religion. They're the same. So, this concept, or this thing we keep hearing people say, I'm spiritual but not religious, is perhaps a reaction to something wrong with religion. Perhaps religion is not providing that liberation that people seek. Perhaps it's not relieving that pressure. Possibly. So we find people from all traditions, from all religious backgrounds, declaring that they are spiritual but not religious. So what could it be? What could it be about our current approach, modern approach to religion that is lacking? Adi Shankaracharya says that knowledge is as essential for liberation as fire is for cooking. Essential as fire is for cooking. I think most in this room will appreciate that if there's no fire, there's no hot food. And at least in Adi Shankaracharya's time, if the food wasn't hot, it didn't really count. In fact, I had a friend from Chennai come to visit me in Houston recently, a Guru Bhai from the ashram. And I took him to a raw food place. We had some raw sandwiches. They're really good. All vegan, beautiful stuff. He enjoyed it. My friend Ranga, he enjoyed it. Then that afternoon I brought him tea after his nap and we were talking and I said, Ranga, what would you like for dinner? And he said, you know, Joe, I really enjoyed the lunch. It was really interesting. But tonight can we have food? Because, you know, in our culture, in the Hindu culture that way, in Bharat, food means it's hot. Otherwise you take it back and ask them to heat it up again. So in the same way, knowledge ultimately is what is going to liberate us, according to Adi Shankaracharya. We've got to turn our thoughts towards our original nature and stop being preoccupied with the external world. Only knowledge will do this. Religion is like the beautiful container that carries that knowledge. You need a container, and it should be beautiful. If someone brings you a Rolex watch in a brown paper bag, you'll think it's fake. So a Rolex watch comes now with the full thing, and it may have a light in it. I don't know, a book, your membership club for the Rolex club. You know that it's an appropriate container for that knowledge. But imagine you fall in love with the container and leave the Rolex. Maybe this is what's happening in religion. And not just Hindu Dharma, maybe all religion. Maybe things have become mechanical. Maybe things have lost their reasonable base. Or maybe it's just not being taught. What is the meaning behind all of it? What is the symbolism of all of it? That's what is required in religion to attract people to the religion. So, without the religion, the pure philosophy is not going to sustain. We need both. This is the point. Every religion has two parts, philosophy and ritual. As someone mentioned this morning, worldview and ritual. If we miss the essential philosophy, the essential knowledge, it'll be empty. And people will start abandoning religion. And if religion is allowed to degrade and decline, then the very carrier of the philosophy will dissipate. There will only be a few spiritual savants out there able to directly tune into the spiritual truths of life. Most of us need some ritual, some form, some container to access that higher knowledge. But if we don't explain that higher knowledge, that meaning, that dharma, rationally, clearly, why you're doing this particular ritual, why you're doing that particular thing, what is the symbolism of it, what does it all really mean to our lives and our practical lives. If we don't do that, the religion is empty. So they asked me to do this topic on spiritual, not religious. And frankly, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know if I'm supposed to be attacking it or defending it. I don't know what it means. But all I can say is that it's probably a symptom of something which we should take notice of. And perhaps that is a lack of emphasis on jnana. And perhaps we could rectify that with more emphasis on jnana in our communities, in our temples, in our schools, in our universities, wherever it is that people are receptive to it. So, thank you very much, and look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Amranji. And as I said in the beginning, it is an extremely tricky topic, but I think Mr. Amranji did a phenomenal job kind of trying to interchange the ideas between two concepts. Thank you again. So there are a couple of audience questions. I'm going to ask the questions to our eminent guests, and we'll take it from there. For those of you that just entered, there is an app or a website. It's called a Slido. And if you enter the conference code 108, please tell me, is the code right? 108? You can actually type in the questions. You can type in as an anonymous, or you can put in your name. And those questions that gets most requests will be asked to our judges. So our guests. So if you can please type away your questions, that would be great. I said boarding questions. First one goes to Mr. Hare Krishna. Excellent work indeed, that's for you, sir. How do you decide which child gets the food support? How can we help from here? It gives you an opportunity to get through. Hello? That's what Prabhuji did.
in Akshaya Patra, we provide in government schools. By and large, if you are familiar, for those who are familiar with Indian situation, a family, if they can afford some amount of money, they'll send them to a private school where the quality of education is supposedly to be better than the government schools. So we provide food in the government schools where generally the less privileged families send their children. So that takes care of, to ensure that very deserving children are benefited by this program.
That's good. Okay. This next question is for Dr. Subramaniam ji. How do you make members comfortable with inviting underprivileged youth and adults or different racial backgrounds into temple for support?
In any of those things could be a challenge. And so this is something that even prior to starting something like a robotic class, you should make sure, inform the devotees, including the office bearers and the board and the committees. So there will be a comfort level. The second is, I think it's so important that we don't remain as Hindu mandirs in silos. That is a prescription for disaster. If you remain separate from the community in which you are located, it is going to come back to bite you. So I think it is very important to be able to, for the office bearers, for the devotees, and the people in the committees, to understand what is it and how do we do help the community in need as well. And so that is how, we try to facilitate that. But it has been a challenge, so it is not easy. And the same thing, in terms of the sandwich program, it is something that we need to get to the local homeless people. We got to be able to give food. And as you can see, they are serving thousands of poor children, millions in terms of it. So it is important to be able to do that and address that sensitivity on both sides.
Thank you, Doc. And I'll ask the question to Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I think the first question also asked, how can they help? I think that's very important for the audience to know as well.
Yes, we have a website, akshayapatra.org, which is mostly, which has an Indian donation page. We also have foodforeducation.org. We have an office in the US, in Boston. So if you go to the website, Food for Education, you will find a page that will allow you, if you want to make any contributions. And we have all the tax exemption benefits to do.
Thank you. Actually, this other question is also for Prabhuji. Related to Akshaya Patra, what are your current challenges from 17 lakh to 50 lakh and beyond?
We have, there are challenges, but I think we are finding innovative solutions. One is certainly the fund requirement. As I was mentioning, the meal costs about 11 rupees and we get from the government about 7 rupees. So there is a gap funding of 4 rupees per child. So every day that we feed children, we spend about 80 lakh rupees. Like today was a school working day. By the end of the day, we would have spent 80 lakh rupees to feed 17 lakh children, about 1.7 million children every day. And we do that for about 250 days in a year. So, there are a lot of kitchens that are coming up. In fact, there are about 20 more kitchens in the pipeline in the next 2 years, which will become operational. And so when when we add those kitchens and add about maybe another 10 lakh children, 1 million children, so much more money becomes essential. Secondly, to set up those kitchens also costs a certain amount of money. So we need to raise money for the setting up of the kitchen. We need to internally build our own organization. So there is a lot of operational capability that we have to develop within, which is also a certain amount of challenge. Of course, we are having different internal training programs, leadership programs, and we are even planning to start an Akshaya Patra University, because there are a lot of interesting training programs that are available within Akshaya Patra food handling. Like, I'll give you one example. In our kitchen in Bangalore, we used to see that the people who work for us, after about 1 year, they would leave and go. So there was a lot of attrition, nearly 40%. So we were very concerned about it. And then we started studying where do these people leave and go. Mostly what used to happen was we would get people who come into the city looking for a job from villages. So we would employ them and we would train them in food handling, ISO certification, food safety, good manufacturing practices, good hygiene practices, all of those kind of things. So at the end of 1 year, mostly they would all get a job in a 3-star or a 5-star hotel. So they would go away because the salary we pay is not as much as a 3-star or a 5-star hotel can pay. And when they see that they're already trained in food handling, they would easily get a job. So then we started looking at it in a different way. Maybe this is another way of rural empowerment that we are doing. Get people from the village, train them for 1 year, and then build their capacity, and then go and send them to a hotel. So we started looking at it that way. So like this, we have a lot of opportunities for people to learn and get trained, and so that's another thing that we have to build up. And like this, there are a few challenges when, what happens is, when we get into the program, the government spends about 20,000 crore rupees every year on this program. So when we step in, that money comes directly from the district collector or the district magistrate to us. If we are not there, that money goes down from the district collector down to the education officer, then up to the headmaster in the school. And so there is a lot of opportunity for money to leak. So when we come in, that gets completely arrested. So those people who were beneficiaries of that leak, they are the ones who oppose us. If we want to come in, they do different kinds of, create a lot of problems and oppose us. So that's another challenge that, but last 18 years we have sort of learned the art of managing all these kind of things. And so, like this, we have a few challenges. And at the end of the day, these children are very happy at noon. They're waiting for our vehicles to come. And they're waiting, they run out of the classroom, line up and receive a hot meal. They're very happy to get that meal. So that's what is most satisfying to us.
Thank you, Prabhuji. I hopefully can fit in 1 or 2 more questions. Next one is, how do you segregate religion and social or cultural activities to invite external organizations to help the temple in their social and educational activities? I think that's what I was running into.
I think this is in another way. I think there is a lot of discussion about unity, collaboration, cooperation in the sessions in the morning, and even here as well. There is a tendency that each one of us, in a temple or an organization, try to do all of it by ourselves. And that's not easy, that's not possible, and that limits you in terms of how much you can do. And so we realized, but after quite a few years, so I shouldn't say that we were ready to collaborate with others right away. But like every organization, temple, in fact, there is a separate talk on that in terms of 4 different stages of temple development. Once the temple reaches the mature state, the last state, then they are starting to look at other issues, other things. So when you do that, then you realize there are strengths in other organizations that you don't have to duplicate. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. So for example, Hindu American Foundation is there. So we say, all right, we will work with you in terms of education. Is an area that we're interested in. So let us train the teachers. You know, these the American school, mid school, high school teachers. Let us train them. That is the best way to give the correct information. And that is in California, many of you know, they have to go to a large extent to correct this books. And it took years of writing. And whereas this way, you give all the materials to the teacher directly. So when they go back to the different states, they will do it. But we were able to do it with collaboration. Otherwise, it would have been a challenge. Even the homeless meal program is collaborating with other organizations. In addition, we also do collaboration with interfaith organizations. And so we have not alone dialogues, but also we work together in common areas which will clearly identify the service. We also recognizing the 9/11 issue in terms of in this country. As an interfaith organization, we do what is called a unity walk. You know, where we walk from one temple or different religious organizations, place of worship, one to the other, and so that way we are also having all of us participate in one activity together. So I think we really, as temples, need to expand our vision and aim in terms of how do you find opportunities to collaborate and do the service that is necessary.
Timekeeper is okay. I have one more, I think, key question that Swamiji would be able to answer, if that's okay with you. There is a question that says, if Modi cannot help, it is understandable, but why is Maharashtra government overtaking temples? I actually wanted this question to be asked. Thank you for that.
Maharashtra, this present government has not voted in the temple. That was in the previous government, which was headed by the Congress. After the BJP ruled governments came into power, except when there are genuine problems, they have not taken